Show lined up for you. I'm your host, Kim Jacobs, better known as the Balance Doctor. And all of our guests that come on, they're either people that have overcome some tremendous odds in their own lives as they balance this thing called life, or they're experts and they're here to share tips and strategies that will help you better balance and manage your life. Grab your virtual seats and let's get ready for some real relevant and relatable content on today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Kim Jacobs Show, where we are bringing balance to the world. I should say bringing balance to your household, one household at a time. We are doing that today with Dr. Paul Miller. How are you today, Dr. Paul?
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm doing real well.
You're doing really well, and you are a bright light in this world, and so glad to have you here today.
Oh, thank you for letting me be here.
Listen, y'all, we're going to be talking about how to come from the gutter to greatness. It's a whole thing in between going from the gutter to greatness. How do we make that a reality in our lives? And so, Dr. Paul, as people are grabbing their virtual seats, I would almost say almost like a commercial, mini commercial type of thing. Yes. What would you say to people today just to give them a little teaser of what they can expect?
See, if you think about the gutter as the gutters on your houses, right? So when the gutter is clogged, and the gutters aren't really expensive pieces of apparatus, right? But when your gutters are clogged, they will do damage to your roof. They'll do damage to the interior of your house. They will do damage to the exterior of your house when they're clogged, because the water's going to back up. So moving from your gutter to greatness is all about unclogging your gutter so the water flows freely, so that you have the ability to remove the damage that you're doing to yourself internally, to your own house.
Now you're gonna make me, you know how somebody said, you're gonna make me throw something over here, grab the remote and just throw it. You'll be like, oh man, drop the mic.
So that's what we're talking about today.
I never even thought about it from that perspective, as far as until I encountered you in this regard. Right. Getting that gutter cleared so that you can have the right mind space to accomplish the greatness that lies within you. Wow. Absolutely. Okay, y'all, anybody else got some emojis you want to put over there? Some, praise the Lord, running through the streets, and some great stuff happening. Listen, today when we're talking to Dr. Paul Miller, I want y'all to be active participants, share any thoughts, questions. Don't go through this life and knowing that we have an expert right here that can answer some things that you're personally dealing with, and you let them get off the show. This is free, almost free counseling type of situation. Get your questions answered. What has you stuck? What has you clogged? Those are things you want to get answers to and get them right from Dr. Paul Miller today. So let me let you know who this person is. He definitely is a man that grew up facing some very harsh realities in the urban life of Rochester, New York. And those challenges of poverty and lack of role models could have easily set him on a different path. But instead, he chose to become Dr. Paul Miller. And I'm going to let him tell you about his transformation, his backstory, how he's now the CEO of multiple organizations, including Charter Champions and Urbane Education. So I'm not going to go and read all of the bio stuff because I want you to hear it from him. Take us on a journey through your backstory and who you are from some of your younger years to become who you are today.
Sure. Thank you. I'm going to share my gutter story, right?
Yes, please.
So I grew up in Rochester, New York. So for those of you who don't understand Rochester or the level of poverty here, Rochester is the third poorest city in the country. Rochester often has the highest murder rates per capita in New York State. Excuse me, has the highest murder rates per capita in New York State. Rochester also has the lowest education, even currently, is 646 out of 646 out of school districts in New York State. The last time they published graduation rates for Rochester for Black males, it was 9%. So 9% graduated. So that means 91% of Black males didn't graduate when they published those rates, right? So the proficiency rate for math is 2%. The proficiency rate for ELA is 8%. So now think about that. That's 8% of the individuals are not on grade level here. 92 are not percent on grade level for ELA. So this is the city that I grew up in, and I grew up in the middle of the projects here. We didn't start in the projects though. So we started off. I remember when I was young, we started off and we had a house, we had a home. My mom had a business in the home, and so she was a hairdresser. And my grandparents helped her purchase this home. And when we had this house, and it was still in an urban area in the city, in the middle of the hood, but we had a nice house. And so due to depression and due to domestic violence and due to all these aspects that happened, my mother would often come downstairs after an incident with my stepfather with her nose bleeding and then come to do a lady's hair. And you know, people don't want to get their hair done under those circumstances.
No, it's like,
Right.
no.
So it was pretty crazy. So it ended up where we lost a house. And so my mother was very depressed. She was depressed because she often felt unloved, uncared about, and unwanted, right? And she didn't get what she needed. And so that trauma led her to depression. And so she would lock herself in a room. And so she would lock herself in a room when my stepfather wasn't around because she was often depressed that he wasn't there. And then she would lock herself in the room when he was around because she wanted to be with him. So I often had the privilege of being able to raise myself. So when I say that, you know, I say it jokingly, and mother's had a lot of time to heal and growth and transformation. And so she's a different person now. But I often spend a lot of time alone and then also what happened was I developed those feelings of feeling unloved, unwanted, and uncared about. And so at that early age, we lost a house. And when we lost a house, we ended up moving to the projects. And so we moved to the projects in probably one of the most challenged areas in Rochester. And so, but the projects became home, you know, there becomes family. Yes. And there's good, bad, and ugly there. And so, but the projects where I grew up at in the 80s, it was somewhere where if you weren't from there, you probably didn't go through there, especially at nighttime if you weren't.
No, right. I understand.
So growing up there, and then when we moved, what I didn't mention is my stepfather was addicted to crack cocaine. And so we moved next to the dope house. And so when we moved next to the dope house, what do you think happened? We often had items missing, and I'd have to try to negotiate because one of my best friend's brothers ran the dope house, and we would try to get my stuff back. And there would be, you know, overall, those were just some of the minor experiences that started to shape and form that gutter. But what I knew throughout this time is that I had choices to make. And see, what I deeply believe is that God has a plan for all of us. Yes. And so with that plan for all of us, he already knows what's going to happen. He knows the good, the bad, the ugly, and he has it all scripted out. And then it's our choice. Do we follow that plan or not? Are we going to choose? Are we going to follow that plan? Are we going to walk in that? And there was a lot of times because of my trauma, I didn't always walk in that plan. I made a lot of decisions and choices. You know, I was one of those young men that I had to experience things sometimes a difficult way where luckily I never got locked up or I never had any run-ins with the law, but I still was experiencing things where I was selling drugs. I was involved in street life, and I was doing things that I knew weren't part of God's plan for me.
That's right. That's right.
And so I would often get signs. And there was a few times where, in one specific time, and I tell the story, and I believe I tell it in the book too, from the gutter to greatness. And I tell the story where I was riding down one of the streets here in Rochester, and I had a large quantity of drugs on me, and I was going to drop them off at the spot where we were going to sell it at. And all of a sudden, poof, my tire blows out, and I get out, and I'm nervous, I'm scared, but I hear God speak to me and say, "This is a warning." And when he spoke to me and said, "This is a warning," like I heard it. It was a warning. And they say warnings come before destruction, right?
That's right.
And so the warning that I got was saying, hey, this is just a flat tire. But if you continue to do what you're doing, there's going to be more than just this warning, whether it was death, whether it was incarceration, whatever it could have been. I knew that I had choices to make. And I had to either listen to what God was telling me, or I had to either be really, really good and become this leader and help transform education, or I had to become really good at being bad. And
either way, making a choice.
Either way, I had to make this choice. And so I heard that and I listened. And so I was a good athlete. I wasn't great. I played some football. I've always been a decent athlete. And I played some Division I football and got hurt. got hurt because one thing I always did was, even though I was involved in some activity that I knew wasn't favorable, I still maintained my ability by going to school. So, and what I figured out early on was, if I did well in school, people would leave me alone and they wouldn't question or be inquisitive about the other things.
Right. So that was your smoke screen.
You're doing good? Oh, okay, great. So I always did, even though I never really liked it, I did well at school. And so I was doing good. Went on, played some football, got hurt. And so if you asked me when I was a kid, what did I want to do or what did I want to be, I would have said, I want to play in the NFL.
Right, of course.
Right. And I wasn't good enough to play in the NFL. But that's what I thought in my head. And there were glimpses of it. But God was preparing me for something else. And he was kind of showing me what my superpower was going to be. And a lot of it came through understandings and lessons that I learned through sports or playing football or some other things. And that superpower wasn't to play in the NFL or the NBA. What it was, actually, God was giving me the gift of perseverance.
And
so like he put this gift on my heart and he gave it to me. And even though he gave me this gift, I had to start to realize what that gift was. I didn't always realize it or apply it because my gutters were clogged. And so my gutters were often clogged and I was stuck. I was stuck in places, even though professionally I was moving in the right directions. Personally, I still was clogged. And so I then, even though I went through school and I transitioned out of street life and doing those things, I came back because I was hurt from playing football. And I decided, you know what, I want to be a teacher. And so I decided I want to be a teacher because I like sports. I like kids. So I'm going to become a teacher and a physical education teacher at the time. And so I became a physical education teacher. And at this point in time, I started to see the plan reveal of what God wanted for me. And I started to follow this because he wanted me to affect lives and affect it through education. And so now, mind you, all of this, I'm doing all this and I'm pushing forward, but I never really fully addressed a lot of those things that are underlying. Because as a Black male, we often feel like our emotions, we're not supposed to be able to talk about our emotions. We're not supposed to be able to talk about our feelings. It's not safe. Like you don't go into the barbershop and tell them, well, I feel scared today. You don't, that's not the conversation that you talk about, right? Or that I'm hurt. She broke my heart, or my mother left me, and I'm abandoned
or whatever.
Having those conversations, right? So I wasn't working on those things, but I was working on myself professionally. And I decided to become a teacher. And then as a teacher, I was in the Rochester City School District. I often saw that they were making horrible decisions for kids. And I saw that what they were doing wasn't helping. And leaders were making decisions, were self-serving. And so I said, let me be part of the solution, not the problem. So I went and got a master's degree and then became the ability to become an educational administrator and became a leader. I started off as assistant principal. And then I saw it was even worse. Kim, it was even worse. Like I saw leaders. Now I knew where the bodies were buried, and I knew behind the scenes.
Now you're on the inside. You're on the inside.
And they would often ask me to do things that were unethical and that I disagreed with, and I would choose not to. And because I chose not to, it became confrontational at times. And so even times where I was found out later, I was held back from opportunities because of this. And so, but again, that God gave me that superpower of perseverance to say, you know what, you got to find a way to go over, around, under, through, and you got to apply it to this. So I went and got a doctorate. And so I went and got a doctorate in executive leadership. And I walked into those classes feeling like, what the heck am I doing? Because, I didn't feel like I was good enough to be there. And so I quickly realized that I could compete if I did the work. So it was about my effort, not my ability. So I've always had the ability, but I had to put the effort in. And that's a lot of time what people are missing is they're missing putting the effort in. They have the ability, but they're not putting the effort in. So I put the effort in. I ended up doing extremely well, won the dissertation of the year, turned it into books, all that other stuff. And then I got a call one day that said, hey, we got an opportunity for you to move to Albany, New York, and take on a school. At the time, it was one school. And I said, no, thank you. I'm not interested. I'm going to stay in Rochester and I'm going to help my community. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I wasn't listening. So I had to pray. I had to connect. And then finally they kept asking. And I went down to Albany. And when I left the interview, God spoke to me again. He said, "Get ready. You and your family about to move."
Okay.
And the next day I got a call. So God talks to me, y'all, and I hear him and I listen.
And that's
And
a good thing. You got to listen.
I moved, and we moved to Albany. I took the job, and it was at the time the school was, and it still is all boys, but 97% Black and brown young men and
Okay.
90% poverty. And so when I got there, there was about a 57% graduation rate. There was about 250,000 in scholarship money. And there was a month in, my business manager came to me and said, "We're not going to meet payroll next month. We're $90,000 short. What you going to do?" So
Wow.
there was financial issues. And so what I did was I figured it out again, because God gave me the gifts and the abilities to do so. I figured it out. I humbled myself. I listened. I learned. But within the first year and the 11 years I was there, we averaged a 95% graduation rate, 100% acceptance to college, 25 million in scholarship money. And I left, there was 2 million in the bank.
And my question to you is, what innovative strategies did you implement for that to happen? Because that's a significant turnaround from what was being experienced prior to you getting there.
Right. And so the strategies have to do with actually doing what you say you're going to do. And a lot of people talk about it, but don't be about it. Right. So and there's more into that. And one of my companies is called Building Capacity, where we're opening schools, and we're in the process of opening 4 schools right now, and some other things. But the innovative strategies have to do around 4 pillars. So the 4 pillars are, first, building relationships. And so what does that look like within the school? And we build systems that work around building relationships.
And somebody type that, building relationships. Let's type some of these takeaways so you can go back and look at them later. Building relationships. Okay.
So, and with the relationships, it's about intimately building relationships between all the different constituencies, parents, community, administrators, kids. And there's specific things that we will do underneath that. The second piece is directly about making sure that teaching and learning is happening, and it's happening on a high level. So the pillar is all based on teaching and learning, making sure that there's systems around teaching and learning and that it's unified, and make sure that there's good instruction going on that's engaging students in every area of the school. And then we ended up, the third one is data for instruction. So actually using your data to inform your instructional decisions. See, a lot of people will talk about it, but they don't use the data, or they don't use the right pieces of data.
Right.
And so they don't use it to inform their instruction in a way that actually changes it, and then be willing to change your instruction or change the way that you're building relationships based off what the data is telling you. And the last piece that is foundational, it has to do with something that most adults don't like: accountability. So accountability is about accountability for all. It's about accountability for me as the leader, accountability for all of the teachers, administrators, parents, kids, community, through a cultural lens of what they call collective teacher efficacies. So believing that the teachers are the biggest piece that moved the needle for the kids, and building this culture of consistency around these pillars. And you're able to build schools that work. So I started with 75% of the kids that came to me were on a 3rd and 4th grade reading level. We got them all to college, and there were years where we had a 92, 93% matriculation rate, where they actually were going to college and in school. Then I opened a middle school, because the middle school was, we needed to get the kids earlier. But 50% of those kids that came to me were on a pre-K to 3rd grade level. And so with that pre-K to 3rd grade level, we had to do some things differently and build those same type of systems, but for middle school kids. And when we did, we also integrated a STEM-based learning curriculum that really helped their foundational skills. Those 85% of those kids would go on to high school with Regents credits in math, science, and Spanish. And so we were able to turn their lives around too, as well, and make a difference. And so that kind of leads me to where I am today, where I have 5 books. I'm about to release a 6th one, which is a children's book. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm speaking all over the world. I was in at Oxford speaking recently. I'll be in South Africa soon. I'm all over the United States. I'm here in my organization running Charter Champions, supporting the 27 charter schools in Rochester, filling the gaps. And then last but not least, I have an organization called Building Capacity, and we're in the process of opening schools. We have 1 approved. We're writing for 3 more. and submitted, and we're going to open, starting with 4 schools, hopefully in the next year or 2, and then grow out to expand all over the country to help change communities. So that's kind of like the long, short version of my gutter. But I go back to, I didn't start unpacking the gutter until I had some incidents or some traumatic things happen when I was in my early 40s.
Okay. So in your early 40s, there was a pivotal turning point that really shifted things to all of this greatness that you're describing, that you just talked about. So what was that? What was that situation?
So, you know what? Sometimes you got to go through traumatic things to realize you need to work on your own healing. I need to start unclogging that gutter. So professionally, I was living that duality, but personally, you know what? So one of the things, the tenets of leadership is called modeling the way, right? And
Right.
so I was modeling it. I thought I was, but I wasn't doing it at home all the way. And so I had this drama and this trauma, and often, so my issue, like I've never had any issue with drugs or alcohol. My issue has always been women. Like I've always loved the ladies, right? And so, like, hey girl, hey, like, you know, like,
You
and
like, hey girl, hey.
hey, you
All
know,
right.
but you know, I've always loved the ladies, and so that, but why? And so I, you know, unpacking, I had to start unpacking it.
Right.
So when I think of the gutter, you know, I have an acronym for it, and you start grieving your past, you know, and grieving your past, and being okay with these, being okay with it, and accepting it, being willing to learn from it, and being and kind of sit in it. Don't run from it. Don't let it be
Right.
your prison, right? And so the you is understanding the wound. So I had to start to understand the wound. And so understanding the wound for me was realizing that the issues that I had, the trauma, a lot of it came from my relationship with my mother, feeling alone, unloved, and unwanted. And so when I felt unloved and unwanted, I often felt uncared about. And so early on, I had some young sexual experiences that I don't condone or say that was like the right way to start living early on. I also had a
Right.
lot of reference points that were wrong. So I had, you know, like thinking about that pimp culture as positive. Like I remember the song, bees ain't ish, but hoes and tricks, right? And so
Mm.
I remember like that being ingrained to you. The music you listen to, the way you think is the way you act. The way you act is what you attract. And so I'm
Right.
taking those thoughts into what I've seen, into what I've lived, and also how I feel into my spirit. And so I'm in a spot where I start to learn that quantity is better than quality. That I start to that trauma is making me feel like anytime I feel hurt, unloved, or uncared about, I want a new sexual experience to make me feel loved and wanted and make me feel
Mm.
cared about. And so it would be my replacement. It'd be my vice. You know, a lot of people have their vices, and that would be my vice. And so what's interesting, I believe, is that I I ended up marrying somebody that I felt was just like my mother. And so
Interesting.
and so they say you become just like your trauma or you become just the opposite of it, right? And so in
Right.
many ways, I became the opposite of it, and I had changed my life in a lot of ways. But internally and personally, I had become just like it because I had picked somebody that also made me feel uncared, unloved, and unwanted. And
Hmm.
when she made me feel like that, I started running them streets. You know, I was dibbling and dabbling and doing, and not from a illegal uh, selling pharmaceutical tactics, but from, you know, finding different women to make my fulfilling my vice to make me feel better. And so, you know, that kind of, and you know, she definitely had her faults in the relationship, and I had mine. And as we came to a head after 17 years of marriage, and we ended up getting divorced, I said, you know what, I can't keep living like this. I got to do something different, and I gotta retrain my brain. And
Yes.
I got to, the same way that you can retrain a muscle, you can retrain your brain. You can
Yes.
heal
Yes.
trauma. You can work that brain, but a lot of it is going back to what is God's voice? What are you hearing? And then the T is tell the truth about it, right? So
Tell the truth.
after I understand the wound, I had to tell the truth about it. And I had to tell the truth about it. I had to understand where it's coming from and use that to start to transform. And as I told the truth about it, I had to be able to turn my pain into my purpose,
Mm.
right? And so how can now, you know, and so for God, for me, I started writing. And so I had already had 3 books at the time, and I started writing the 4th book, which is From the Gutter to Greatness. And and so that is what I started writing, and I just poured everything in there and put everything in there, and not in a way that was just like a gossip tell-all, but
Right.
like a guide for a journey to help people move from their gutter to greatness. So I'm going to turn my pain into my purpose and help other people with my purpose, and my superpower is perseverance.
Yeah.
I'm going to give the gift of saying, hey, this is what I went through. This is how I got through it. Now I'm going to help you reflect on how can you get through it. And so, then you equip yourself is the E, right? So the equip yourself is with the right tools. So part of the right tools is I wrote a workbook. And so the workbook is moving from your gutter to greatness. And it's a 21-day challenge. And
Excellent.
so that 21-day challenge is, and there's actually 24 days of challenges, because they say it takes 21 days to break a habit.
Right.
I put 24 in there to give you a little extra, but there's 24 days of challenges that you will move through that help you do the work that you need, along with reading, to be self-reflective. And so often they say, if you want to hide something from a Black man, put it in a book. And so I believe that I've written this in a way that it will make it so Black men, but not only Black men, because I've had women read this and say, this is the first book that's going to help me save my marriage.
That's good.
I've had people read this and say, this is helping me reflect on my own life, and women, men of all races and ethnicities that have said, this is helping me reflect, and now using it to unclog my gutter to move into greatness, and then using the workbook, because the R is all about rising. So you're rising, you're rising, you're elevating, and now be the kings and queens that we were determined to be. So, that's really what it's all about.
And what was that acronym again?
So it's gutter. So
gutter. Okay.
Gutter.
Okay.
So gutter,
that's gutter.
Is grieve your past, understand the wound.
Grieve your past. Somebody write that. Grieve your past.
Grieve your past. Yep.
Understand
your wound.
Your wound. Okay.
Tell the truth about your wound.
Tell the truth about your wound.
Turn your pain into your purpose.
Okay.
Equip yourself
to your purpose. And then equip yourself.
And rise.
Y'all, this is some good stuff. Anybody else feel like this is some good stuff? Put a 10 in the comment section. Actually, I want you to just hashtag gutter to greatness. Hashtag gutter to greatness. Equip yourself and rise. I'm putting all of these points, and this is, let me put your name by here, Dr. Paul Miller. There you go. So y'all can go back later and watch the replay or whatever, share it with your friends, and you're going to have all of these points right here. We're going to take a moment and just go to some of the studio audience comments, because I can see a lot of comments flooding in. So maybe if you would, Dr. Paul, if you just answer some questions and address any comments that's coming in. Let's see. Yana says, woohoo! Excited to hear from you, Dr. Miller.
Hello, Yana. How you doing? Thank you for listening.
And Dr. Lotus Roche said, which she's the one that referred you to our show. And if you all have not watched the Dr. Lotus Roche Ignites You show, it is a global program. You definitely want to tune in. And she has so many phenomenal, great guests that come on her platform. Dr. Lotus Roche said, yay, Dr. Miller.
Hey, Dr. Lotus.
Greatness. And she also says she's streaming in from the Washington, D.C. area. Nora says, hello, watching from Nigeria.
Hey, from Nigeria. Hey, I'll be in South Africa. I want to get to Nigeria too. I believe there's a lot of work to be done. I love supporting internationally.
Yes. All right. Catherine De Leon says, clear the gutter to let the blessings of rain flow.
Hey, Catherine. Yes, ma'am. Got to let it flow. Let it flow smoothly so we can move this damage. That's
right. Moving that damage. That's a key word. Getting that unclogged damage from draining you and clogging your soul. I'm so happy to know that Dr. Miller became and is becoming the man that he is designed to be, to open the floodgates to helping others. Absolutely. Especially with this being Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I think that is so important. I was reading about it and saying it's the unique challenges that men face when it comes to your mental health. And
Right.
men are less likely than women to seek help for their mental health problems. So I think what you're talking about, I was so honored to have you on this particular month for this reason. Do you feel that what you're saying connects with men and their mental health?
Absolutely. And so, they in our community is often prayed away, right? And so, and there's prayer is amazing, and I put God at the forefront of everything that I do. But I will also say I believe that God has put therapists here for a reason, right?
Yes.
And as that's part of equipping yourself with the
Yes.
tools. And so part of the tools was I sought therapy. So I sought therapy, and I put myself into therapy to be able to start to work on and heal and unpack and start to be able to tell the truth. And so I could start to formulate what I needed and get the right support. Often it's about finding the right therapist and finding the right support and not being ashamed to discuss that or talk about it, because it's always been taboo to have that conversation, because you better not talk about nothing outside of my house. You gotta, that's right in my house, or your circle, right? But your circle doesn't have the tools to be able to help you navigate some of those wounds, because a lot of times your circle has been through the same type of wounds, so they need
Right.
help too. So yes, there is an absolute love and appreciation for getting the right help and support that you need, and an honor to be talking about this and mental health for month for men, and making sure that we're healthy here so that we can give more of this to the people that we love and be able to take care of our families and our communities the way that it was really designed to be.
Absolutely. I'm so honored that you're taking the time to do this today. And I'm going to put here how people, especially men too, that want to connect with someone that they feel like they can relate to and that they can just reach out and learn and glean from. How do they stay connected with you?
Yeah, so www.drpmiller.com. It links to, I believe, almost all my sites there, and you can follow me. There's an online course. So I have an online course. If you want to take the 21-day challenge, you can do it in a workbook or you can do it online, and you can do that. And that online course, you can connect through the Dr. P. Miller site, and you can connect and take the course and really start working on yourself. You could purchase the books. You can connect with me, and we can talk and support. I do speaking engagements. You need me to come out and holler at your folks, I'm always willing to do that. And what you get is what you see with me. So I'm very down to earth, very authentic individual who brings this to the work. And I want people to understand the passion and the heart that I believe is needed to create change. And so that's what we're really trying to do, is help change communities and change individuals.
That's good. And you are doing just that. And I know on this platform alone, just so everybody knows, we are actually streaming in 140 countries. So the
Oh,
Kim
that's
Jacobs Show, we reached number 3 recently on CTR Media Network. And so this was actually an older one, but we reached number 3 on Roku and different places. So I'm encouraging you to download the CTR Media Network app on Roku and Android TV, Fire TV, and look under the self-improvement channel. You'll find these episodes of the Kim Jacobs Show right there. And so thank you all, because the only way we've even been able to reach this level of accolades is because of your community support. And I will ask you all, because I do think it's necessary to invite you to support our program. Each weekday, we are here multiple times throughout the day and providing wonderful guests like this gentleman that's here with us today, Dr. Paul Miller. And so I encourage you to support us through any level of giving. It helps with all of the different subscriptions, and it allows us to be able to keep our programming coming into your home to provide better balance to your household. So please make sure you support the Kim Jacobs Show. All right. So let's go back to some of these studio audience comments. I see building communities around teachers. Congratulations, Nora said, Dr. Miller. And I told people, please ask your questions. So let's see what questions you all may have. Great job, Catherine said. That right there is deep, whatever you were saying, which everything that he said was deep. So there you have it. Yana says, you become just like your trauma or the opposite of it. That was one of your points. And you said you can retrain your brain. How do you recommend people retrain their brain? I would love for you to talk about that a little more.
Yeah. So a lot of times, So think about it, and I think compare it to when you're trying to build your muscles, right? And so you usually start off slow, but it's about building consistency. It's
Right.
about building new habits. It's about building new rituals, new routines. So when you're training, you don't just change your exercise routine. You also would change your eating habits, right? You would also change what you do, what your behavior is. You're also going to retrain how you do it, and then you're going to start exercising consistently. You're going to get on a program. You're going to start exercising anywhere from probably 3 to 5 times a week, and you're going to start building your muscles. And you're going to start off based on where you're at and your physical ability. So the same thing goes for your brain. And start off where you're at. Start off, but build consistency. Start off changing some of your rituals and routines. Maybe you have to change the people that you're around. Maybe you have to start doing things to take care of yourself more. And then you start working through things and start doing things differently and forming new habits, new rituals and routines. So like they say, like I said earlier, it's usually about your effort and not your ability. So for example, think about it. I think in sports analogies a lot of times, but someone who wants to get better at playing basketball, right? If they practiced an extra hour a day, that would be 9 40-hour weeks in a year, according to Bob Proctor. So that extra 9 40-hour weeks in a year, you're going to get better at it. So if you want to become better, maybe you start reading more. Maybe you start writing more. Maybe you start reflecting. One thing for me that I had to start doing was to make sure that I prayed every day. Right. And so for me, I take quiet time every day and I make sure that I spend that time to pray and to listen to what those answers are, and then try to incorporate those answers, because I'm asking God questions. I'm not, I'm talking, but I'm also asking questions.
Right.
And then I'm trying to listen to what he puts in my spirit. And so, you know what, but making sure that that's a habit, ritual, and routine that I don't want to go without on a daily basis. And I find time to make sure that I do that. So it's about retraining that and forming new habits, new rituals, and new routines.
That's awesome. Well, there you have it, Nora. We can retrain our brains and we can do it quite effectively. But even in the process of implementing new strategies, especially if prayer is one of them, taking that time to listen so that you have the opportunity to capture what the answers are for your life. This is really good stuff. Dr. Lotus Rache says that his 21-24-day challenge is powerful and is changing lives for the better. Listen, if you have not scan this QR code, take a moment right now and do it. Let's just take 2 seconds here and grab your copy now. From the gutter to greatness. What do you want readers to ultimately walk away learning when they pick this book up? You said it's going to help save marriages. You said that men are really learning and gleaning from this. But what's some other things that you want people to take away from your book?
That they're not alone. And when I say that, that especially often men, we feel like we go through things in silos and isolation, and we feel like we don't have the ability to talk about this with our peers or with people that are around us. And so what I tried to do here is tell the truth, right? And the good, the bad, the ugly, and share it. And some of the stuff I'm sure doesn't make me look good, and I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with it because that still was the truth, and it was where I was at. And so when I say all of that, it's about that you have people who are going through similar things and are at similar points in their lives, and we all have our gutters, right? And a gutter doesn't always mean the neighborhood that you grew up in, because oftentimes people say that you're
right.
You're from the gutter, right? But the gutter often is where you're at, and that's your mentality. So we all have our gutters, we all have our things holding us back, and we all have our clogs. So it's about unpacking it, unplugging, and realize that you're not alone. That me, just this regular guy from Rochester, New York, who is a guy's guy, would say that at the end of the day, all this stuff is okay. You're not alone. We all go through this, and the more you can come in tune and in touch with your emotions and feelings and heal emotionally, spiritually, and physically, the stronger you're going to be to move into your greatness sooner. You're going to eliminate those barriers.
Very good. Very good. Angela, I see you from the DC area. Thank you for tuning in today as well. Catherine De Leon says, make sure you grieve your past. And these are all tips that you shared, understanding your womb. Thank you so much for typing his points. Tell the truth about your womb and your wounds, because it's necessary to be honest with where you are. Turn your pain into your purpose, equip yourself, and rise. And we also hashtag gutter to greatness. Everyone should be hashtagging gutter to greatness. Oh, wow. Okay. So much.
Kim, was interesting, and I know you didn't ask me this, but it's on my heart to talk about.
Come on.
Right before the show, I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, one of my best friends. I was like an older brother, and I won't say his name, but much older brother, and not as good looking, but right. So my older brother, and so we were having this conversation because there was this job opportunity that I presented him with, and it was this opportunity of a lifetime, because he's retiring from one spot, opportunity of a lifetime to take on one of the all boys locations, right? And so very qualified, competent individual, and so he didn't have a lot of time to really decide if this was the move for him or not.
Right.
But in his spirit, he knew God was telling him, you need to do this. This is going to be your legacy. This is part of what you're doing.
Mhm.
And so we had a conversation this morning. He let the distractions around him, and not distractions like negative or vices, but distractions of like, oh, I really just want to retire, or really, do I want to do this? Do I really want to do that? And those kind of negative influences, not listen to what God was telling him. And he decided not to move in that way. And then he felt like it was, just really it's been eating at his spirit, that he decided not to listen because he was distracted. And so like my message to folks out there is, people, no matter where you're at in life, there's always going to be challenges, right? And you're going to have these challenges, and there's going to be distractions, and they might not be street life distractions like I described earlier, or some of those other things, or external affairs, or whatever that might be. Sometimes those distractions are going to be things that are very simple and right in front of you, but make you second guess and make you question your confidence and make you question that negative self-talk around who you are and feed into that. But if you can turn that down and take a listen to God's voice and hear what God is telling you, you're going to have the greatest opportunity to move into your season of greatness, because you're going to be, because those two things are going to merge together. So when that personal and professional merge together, and you start to heal that wound, that's how you start to move into greatness. But it's listen to that voice. And so my brother wishes that he would have listened to that voice. And so it's a learning experience, because we have free will and choice, and we don't always make the decisions that God wants us to. And hopefully, where there's a will, there's a way in the future. But again, it's about listening to that voice.
That's good. That's you needed to say that, because there are so many people that the voice is resonating in their spirit, and do this, do this, do this, do this. But then it's something on the other side saying, maybe not right now, and talking yourself out of the great opportunity that does exist for you. And because you don't know what the future holds, sometimes people are very unsure, uncertain about what is this going to look like if I do take this leap of faith. But as you just said, it's so important to not let yourself get discouraged by a voice that does not have your best interest at heart, clearly, right?
Right. And it's really taking the time to tune in and listen, and not letting that cloud, because like a lot of times if you think long, you think wrong. Like God is talking to you, talking to your spirit, and you know exactly what you're supposed to do. And how many times, for those people listening out there, do you choose the opposite? Do you choose and listen to, because a lot of times it's easier or it feels better. And we listen to what we want instead of what God wants. And you know what? It just continuously holds us back, and it prohibits us from moving or shifting into where we're supposed to be as part of that plan sooner.
Wow, this is good. Okay. Listen, I know also you're the CEO of multiple organizations, one of Charter Champions, Urbane Education, all kinds of different hats that you're wearing. How are you personally balancing those roles and staying as mission driven as you are? Because this show is about how you're balancing life, and you're balancing it quite effectively.
So you know what? It really is. One is the balance comes from all of my fruit are in the same basket. So like I'm not trying to do things that aren't associated with each other. So I'm not going to try to open a dental office because that's not, that would be stressful and not my area. Right. But everything I do is kind of in the same basket and plays off of each other. And one thing is able to support each other. And then it's also about trying to build a good team and build good people around you that can help and that support what you're doing, and make sure that you have the help that you need. And then also it really has to do with maintaining that home life balance. And so after the divorce, it's kind of started life over and started life over, but keeping that balance and maintaining it differently, and kind of shutting off at certain times, at certain priorities. And I actually started over with, I have older kids, so I have grown kids, and then I have a 4-year-old too. So yeah, COVID got me.
COVID got you. Got hold to you.
Being fast during COVID, right? So got a 4-year-old, and making sure that 4-year-old, on top of my grown kids, they're adults, but making sure that 4-year-old is a priority, and that balance is met, and trying to keep that home life balance with home, spouse, baby, and be able to shut that off, and not always go, even though my mind, I would never shut off, because like my mind goes constantly.
That's a good thing that your mind does go, but then you have to like you say, you have to say, okay, we're going to just take a break for a minute. And you have to take a break when you have a 4-year-old and you're your age. You definitely are like, oh my gosh, what's happening over here? I got to get my mind right.
And this girl's a lot. She is on the team terrorist. So she is, she's a lot.
Well, you know what? Now you maybe have to ask a whole different question, because there's a lot of men. I don't know that I have to look at the statistics, but there are a lot of men probably in your age category, and they're starting over with being a new father to a young child, and they have adult children. What advice do you give people that's balancing fatherhood and adult children and toddlers?
Ooh, man, it ain't, my back hurts, y'all. So it ain't easy. But the truth of it is, you know what? I think the way that you balance is appreciating it more. And so, like, I actually appreciate this time around. So I've always been that very active dad. I've always been that very present dad, but I appreciate it more. And I appreciate it from the standpoint of where I am knowing these little moments of how important they are. And even when I don't want to do things, I still do it anyways, because now the truth is I'm tired, and I want to get home, and I don't want to do that. But I don't want to put on the roller skates and go skating down the driveway and all that. I don't want to do that. But do I do it? Absolutely. And I also appreciate it, and I appreciate it, like, wow, I have, instead of I have to, it's I get to.
You get to. That's, oh, you know what? Somebody type that. For all of you dads that are tuning in or starting over when it comes to having new children, you get to. What an honor and a privilege it is for you to get to be able to support a new life and build a legacy on someone that's going to be depending on you for their future too. So
absolutely. So that's part of the blessing there is, instead of I have to, I get to. I got to remind myself of that. But so I'm not going to be around here fronting and act like it's always easy. Right. But it's that mentality and that mindset of removing those complaints and removing some of those feelings and replacing it with, all of the good and the opportunity, and appreciating it and relishing in the good.
That's good. Let's see. We had a couple more questions, and I see people type paragraphs. So let me look. Okay. Like, if you get off this show and don't read my paragraph that I typed.
Let's go.
Angela said, change is a domino effect. This can lead to significant consequences, both positive and negative, depending on the initial change and the interconnectedness of the system. That was a great comment.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Dr. Lotus says, what is the most challenging behavior that you've noticed with young boys when it comes to staying in school and finding great mentors? Great question, Dr. Lotus.
That's a very good question. This is a loaded question now. So you asked this, you're going to get what you asked for, Dr. Lotus. So one of the biggest issues that I see with our young men, especially our young men of color. So is what, and I'm going to explain this, is I will say mental weakness. And I'm going to explain where I believe that comes from, and then explain again how I believe we need to retrain that, and understanding that mentors need to understand this even for ourselves. So often think about, so with the black woman was designed, and this is no disrespect, but to raise her daughters and love her sons. And so what does that mean, right? And so if you look at what happens, often the black mom, and not all, because a lot of mothers have broken the cycle and are able to do things different, but too many, this is not monolithic, but too many have still raised their daughters and love their sons. And what that means is that they are teaching their daughters how to cook, clean, take care of the house, do everything they need to do, meet their responsibilities, and have a career and do everything they need to do. And then their sons, they're loving to a point of enabling them. And so, and then what happens is, this goes back to slave times, right? And so there's theories out there where, and this is where, it gets, you ask for it. So, so where it gets deep is that, so there's theories, Willie Lynch theory. Some say he was real, some say he wasn't real, right? Whatever it is, but the ideology is real, where when he came in to break a slave, part of what he did was create a division. He wanted to pull the black man out of the household. He wanted to emasculate the man. He wanted to, break the buck as much as he could. And then with the woman, what they did is in order to keep their daughter safe, they taught her how to cook, clean, take care of the household so that she wouldn't be killed, beaten, sold, or any other terrible things that happened during slavery. But with the man, so her son wouldn't be killed, beaten, or sold, she helped to love that son and make him physically strong, but mentally weak. And so what that means is he could go out and be a good field hand, but mentally he wouldn't ever buck up, because she didn't want him to be killed, sold, or anything else to happen to her son. And so what that ended up transitioning into was often a level of this mental almost complacency that would take what was given to your handle. Because I'll ask a young black boy, and I'll go up to them and I'll ask this question when I'm speaking to kids, which I wouldn't do, Raul. But if I walked up to you in almost any age, if I said, and I smacked you right now, what you gonna do? And they're gonna say, well, we fighting. It's on,
it's going down, it's happening.
So, right. But why do you let these grades smack you? Why do you let that English class smack you? Why do you let what happened, what somebody said about you on the playground smack you? Why do you say, why are you getting smacked so many times and you are not getting up from it, and you're walking away with your tail tucked between your legs, versus when somebody physically assaults you, you are handling it, right? And so what we have to do, again, because mentally, is retrain the brains. We have to break the cycle. We have to work with our boys to implement this level of perseverance and mental toughness and grit to be able to break these curses, retrain their brains with new habits, new rituals, and routines. Because systemically, they said if we make a slave, we're going to have slaves for 400 years. And if you look at the statistics, one every 3 households is to single parent moms, right? And if you look into the academics, Black males are failing at higher rates than any other population. If you look at prisons, 37% of the prison population is Black males, but Black males only make up 13% of the population in the world. So again, when you look at this, and it's just the opposite for the white males, where it's like 40% of the world is made up by white males, but only 13% of the prison population, right? And so all of these things were very purposeful, but it's our job as parents and as mentors to work to try to retrain our boys and our young ladies, right? And I don't want to omit or leave our young ladies out.
Of course.
But for our training our boys and train them to be mentally strong and physically strong and spiritually strong, right? And give them the gifts that they need by not enabling them and making sure that they have the ability to succeed. And that's what we need from our mentors, is working to help our boys and help them build the mental fortitude that they need to succeed.
That's good. That's really good. Good. I mean, outstanding advice. And so, Dr. Lotus, great question. Thank you so much. And I'm also wondering, with you being the host of this podcast, which was an award-winning podcast for New York and Noteworthy on iTunes.
Yes.
What can listeners expect when it comes to From the Gutter to Greatness, tuning into your podcast, reading your book, taking the 21-day challenge? Is so many different aspects. What can people expect when they tune into your podcast?
Expect that you're going to hear and see people who look and act and talk just like you, that are going through the things or have been through the things that you have been through, right? And then thinking about how do you use that, and where do you see yourself in, right? And usually before you can start to see the changing, you have to see yourself in it first, right? So where do you see yourself at it, inside of it, and then utilize that to make the changes that you need to make, and utilize that to be the person that you're supposed to be. And all of it is designed, really, it's more to help you than it is to humbly help me. It helped me getting it out, right? And the way it helps me is I believe that I'm designed and trying to help others. And so, like, I feel good when I'm able to help somebody else. So part of what I believe is that this is there, and these items are put there so you have the ability to kind of, like you said, this podcast, this show here is in the self-help category. And so that's what I want people to help themselves, because if you help yourselves, that's the only way you're going to be able to help others.
Absolutely. Helping yourself, then you can help others, because now you've applied what you actually taught other people. What is greatness to you? Because I know you talk about from the gutter to greatness, and we talked a lot about the gutter. What is greatness to you?
So I've always wanted two things in my life, right? And so, and one is going to be like, okay, and the other one is going to be self-serving. And so the first one, what I believe is, and greatness to me is actually what I feel God has told me that I need to do in this life is to help others. And when I say that, it's also in the terms of education. So for whatever reason, he's given me a gift or a talent or ability, so I could walk into a school, I can see exactly what's going on, and I could help somebody who wants help to be able to support and change their processes, build systems that work, and build a successful school. Do a lot of people want that advice? No. But do they need it? Yes. Right. Yes. So I have that gift and that ability, but I believe God has given me that. And what God has told me instinctively here is, if I do what he wants, and I help others, and I help education, and I do those things, that I'll have the second thing that I want. I want to be wealthy doing it. So I was like, I don't feel that I need to be broke or poor because I'm in education. So, and I'm not there yet, but I'm building that, and I'm building those foundations, and I'm working towards that, to where I don't want to have to worry about, or when I was young and we used to have to take bottles back for toilet paper, or I used to have to go into the store with the food stamp coupons, where I was, I thank you, Dr. Lotus. When I was young, I would sit outside the store and I would wait because it wasn't on the cool cards that they have now. It was on the funny money. And I would wait until for little girls to walk out of the store so they wouldn't see me pay with that, or because I was embarrassed by it. And and so now I wish I had some food stamps, right? So shoot, like, please pick me. I'll trade you. But I want to move into a season of wealth. So helping people and wealthy is what is greatness to me.
Excellent answer. Okay. Mental wellness can be overcome by taking action. We don't have to stay there, is what Dr. Lotus said. And Dr. Tina J. Ramsey, I talked about her earlier when I talked about CTR Media Network. She's the founder of CTR Media Network. And so thank you, Dr. Tina J. Ramsey, for being here and witnessing today this great guest, Dr. Paul Miller. Yes. So glad to have you.
Hello. No, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Let me also give people another opportunity to make sure that you scan that QR code and get your copy of From the Gutter to Greatness. Get your copy today. If you know that you're getting a copy, go ahead and put it in the comment section that I'm getting my copy. I have gotten my copy. I have my copy. I'm getting it right now. Make sure that you put it over in the comment section. We want to see a significant boost in sales just today alone, even though it's already bestseller on Amazon and everything, but we still want to see a significant boost today. So make sure that happens. And then also, just another really side note, I see this, and I want to let you know I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta.
Okay, sorry.
So you are my brother.
Yes, ma'am. Always. Bleed
I
purple and
saw that
gold.
on your Facebook page. I thought that was anyway. Okay, I want to also, before I close out, because we're getting ready to close out here, but get your closing comment together. And as you're getting that, I want to play this quick bit.
From the rugged roads of Rochester, New York.
It's time to get on your feet as we welcome the CEO of Charter Champions.
Rising from humble beginnings.
He is a prolific author, education advocate, keynote and TED Talk speaker, esteemed guest speaker at Oxford University, London, presidential lifetime achievement recipient. He helps people not to just chase life, but to champion it. It's time to move from the gutter to greatness. Stand to your feet as we welcome
Dr. Paul Miller.
Dr. Paul Miller. Dr. Paul Miller.
Dr. Paul Miller, the amazing and incredible dynamic speaker, Dr. Paul Miller.
Started from the gutter, now I'm here. Dr. Paul Miller, it has been a tremendous pleasure having you here today. What's a closing thought, comment? How do you want to leave your legacy? What do you want to be known for? Close us out.
Oh, that's a big one. You know what? I think if you want to think about what do you want to be known for, you got to think about what's your why, and what's your why, and what are you in love with, right? And so what I'm in love with is a lot different than what you love. In love is what you love is, love is a good feeling, and love is a strong feeling. Love is a lasting feeling. But in love is that butterflies in your stomach, that candy and flowers, them long walks on the beach, ladies, that y'all know y'all like to take.
Yes.
And you got the little butterflies in the stomach. That's in love, right? And
right.
So in love is a little bit different. And so I had to come in touch with what am I in love, and what's my why is what I'm in love with. And when I thought about it, initially, my first answer, and your first answer will probably be corny too. Your first answer is probably, oh, I love kids. I love that. I don't even like kids that much. I'm joking. But I'm not in love with kids, and appropriately, right? I'm not in love with kids. What I'm in love with winning. Winning is sexy to me. Winning excites me. And when I say that I'm in love with winning, I'm in love with winning so much that I want to be able to win for our kids. If you said to me, let's go outside and run backwards butt naked in the wintertime, I am going to want to beat you. If you said, hey, let's go and cook a meal, I want my meal to taste better than yours. If you said to me, I want to run a school, I want my school to be better than yours. If you said, hey, I want to teach a lesson, I want my lesson to be better than yours. At the end of the day, I want to win, but I don't want to just win for myself. I want to win for kids. I want to win. And then I want to teach other people how to win. And so what I am leaving people with is come in tune and in touch with your why. Your why is your purpose, and turn your purpose into your passion, right? And turn your purpose into your passion, and you'll never go wrong because you'll always meet what you want to do.
Yes. Turn your purpose into your passion, knowing that why, and you will always be happy with the outcome of what you chose to do. Dr. Paul Miller, I am so honored that you took the time to be with us today. We all became better people just because of your presence. And to stay connected with Dr. Paul Miller, you want to definitely visit drpmiller.com. drpmiller.com. I have audio podcast listeners as well. So we need to make sure it's Dr. P as in Paul, Miller.com. Okay. Make sure you all stay connected with him and tune in to all of the programs that he's participating in. You'll find him speaking around the country. You will find him speaking at your organization if you go ahead and get him booked. You'll also find him being able to be able to host his own podcast. And so make sure you're tuning in. Thank you so much, Dr. Lotus Richey, for giving us this special blessing of Dr. Paul Miller today. And thank you all in the studio audience for tuning in and allowing us to bring balance to your house, one household at a time, to this whole world, one household at a time. Thank you so much, Dr. Paul.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And everybody, thank you for tuning in. I love all of you all and have a fantastic day. See you tomorrow again, right here on The Kim Jacobs Show. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of The Kim Jacobs Show and for being in the virtual studio audience. Your presence truly does make a difference. And I look forward to you bringing your friends and family to join you in the virtual studio audience Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I look forward to seeing you and make it a great day.